Holy cow, you made it to Monday. Happy Monday. Welcome to Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fenton. I am Jason Fitz. For the next 2 hours, we will get you caught up on everything that you need to know from the weekend. And it was a wild weekend. We will get straight into it. Number one, the most important thing everybody is talking about today is the Kansas City Chiefs are eliminated. Now, there's some serious news with this, and we start with that. Patrick Mahomes suffered a torn ACL versus the Chargers, is out for the season, the Chiefs have announced. Obviously, all of our thoughts and prayers go to Patrick and his recovery. This is the first time we've seen this sort of substantial injury in his career, and how he bounces back is going to be a huge part of what the Chiefs will have to be banking on looking forward. But Caroline Fenton, obviously this creates a ton of conversation because first and foremost, just to acknowledge the elephant in the room, the Chiefs, we kept saying, when are we going to leave them for dead? Got no choice now. They are officially eliminated. Let's just make sure that's clear. The Chiefs cannot make the playoffs.
And I think it had to get to this point almost for so many of us. It was like, okay, I have to see it to believe it. I have to mathematically and statistically see the Chiefs actually be eliminated from postseason contention before we can actually believe that it's a realistic thing or that's something that we can actually predict, because it's just so difficult to count this Chiefs team out. They've gotten and they deserved every single ounce of the benefit of the doubt that you and me and so many of us have given them. But I kind of want to talk about it in two different little buckets and two different compartments. One, the Chiefs are mathematically eliminated from the postseason. What does that mean for the way that we view this team, the way that we view this legacy and this dynasty? And the second is, I know that so many Bills fans or Patriots fans out there, Broncos fans are rejoicing that the Chiefs aren't in their way this year, but we also have to acknowledge that comes at the hands of Patrick Mahomes being out for the season, suffering a torn ACL. You don't want to see anybody go through that, but especially a guy like Patrick Mahomes, who has been so electric, obviously, and incredibly reliable in his career. Your best ability is your availability, and for the large part, Patrick Mahomes has been inevitable and available on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, obviously, you see Patrick there in pain on the field. That's going to be a moment that will impact the rest of this season and could, frankly, impact some of next season as well. So let's break it down. From all of this, let's take a look at some of the winners and losers across the league from the downfall overall of the Chiefs. Obviously, nobody wins when Patrick Mahomes isn't playing, but we'll look at some of the winners and losers. And let's start with winner number one, which in the eyes of many is going to be Josh Allen, right? Like we spend every year talking about legacy, and I spend a lot of time saying, hey, we need context to those conversations. Like I'm never going to turn around and say, well, that quarterback didn't win a Super Bowl without the context of what did the team look like, who won the Super Bowl in those years, what were your roadblocks? The why is as important as the information. So the why that we've had every year for Josh Allen not bringing home a Lombardi trophy has been pretty simple. As much as he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league, he's still got Mahomes. He's still got the Kansas City Chiefs. That is a gauntlet to try and get through. So right now, to your point, if you're a Bills fan, if you're Josh Allen, you're looking around and saying, oh, my God, the runway is cleared. Like, we don't have to worry about 12 seconds of Mahomes being the thing that sends us home. It's got to at least – now we have to look at this Josh Allen conversation and say, okay, you have the opportunity. The door has been cracked open. This could be your chance.
And it does feel like the best chance he's had so far in his career. It's not only Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs aren't standing in his way anymore. It's also Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals also mathematically eliminated from the postseason. It's Lamar Jackson and a Ravens team that doesn't look all that threatening, although they look much more like the Ravens of old than the Ravens of the season yesterday. But there's so many roadblocks that have existed in the AFC. The reasons why we are looking at Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, as being elite quarterbacks that haven't won a championship. All of those roadblocks that exist, well, those don't exist this year for the Buffalo Bills. I'm not going to say if they don't do it this year, then when, because we said that for how many years about Andy Reid? How many times could we say that about Ryan Day at Ohio State? I'm not going to say you can't do it just because you haven't done it, but this feels like the ultimate opportunity for the Bills to finally break through when those roadblocks don't exist. I'll look at another team that will keep it in the AFC East. I think the winners of this, and I want to acknowledge how icky it feels saying that there's winners out there when somebody is injured and is not going to be sitting on the couch for the foreseeable future with a tough roadblock ahead, but
winners to the Chiefs being eliminated. Winners to the Chiefs being eliminated. Nobody wins with Mahomes injured. Winners to the Chiefs being eliminated.
I think it's Patriots fans because Patriots fans probably got so sick and tired of hearing about the Chiefs dynasty, so sick and tired of hearing about Patrick Mahomes as the GOAT when the Patriots are looking around here like, hey, no, we got 6 rings. Hey, no, Tom Brady is our GOAT. Now that kind of what's the greatest dynasty in the history of the NFL conversation doesn't feel like it has as much credence for the Chiefs, that maybe Patriots fans can breathe a sigh of relief knowing that their GOAT and knowing that their dynasty is kind of maintained as the greatest one, at least in this generation of the NFL. And I think it's also same thing as Josh Allen. The Patriots are squarely positioning themselves as Super Bowl contenders. Maybe we don't feel as strongly in that take today after, losing a 21-0 lead to the Bills yesterday, but the Patriots I still view as Super Bowl contenders, and they also don't have that roadblock of the Chiefs existing anymore either, but it's more so the legacy of these dynasties.
Yeah, 100%. And many people were pointing it out last night. This is just a crazy fact. It lacks some context, but Tom Brady and Mahomes won 3 Super Bowls early in their careers and then tore their ACLs in their 9th seasons. Both Mahomes and Brady tore their ACLs in the same season. Now, should be noted, Brady did that week 1. That's part of why the Patriots didn't make the playoffs that year. Mahomes does it near the end of the year when the Chiefs were about to be eliminated. Very different, but still weird simpatico through all of that. Give me another winner that you've got your mind on in this one.
I'm looking at the draft because one of the biggest champagne problems probably in the NFL is when you are playing so deep into the postseason, not only do you fall to the bottom of the draft, it also leaves you so much less time to construct your roster for the next season. So this gift of having a top 15 pick in the NFL draft, actually having time in the postseason to construct a roster, is a kind of gift that the Chiefs haven't had. So I'm looking at the winners as the roster, builders moving forward, and also whatever skill position player who's probably going to get taken. Let's just say the Chiefs finish the season 6-11, which feels like it's very much so in the realm of possibility. That'll leave the Chiefs with probably picking between 10 and 15 in the draft. If you're pick 10 through 15 in the draft, you're probably not going to a great organization, but whichever player gets drafted, let's say 11th or 12th overall to go to the Chiefs, let's say it's a receiver and you are, catching balls from Patrick Mahomes in a scheme orchestrated by Andy Reid, and you're going to go to the Kansas City Chiefs, like that's a winner in my book.
Yeah, just a reminder to everybody that the whole way that the Cincinnati Bengals got to pick high enough in the draft to get Jamar Chase was an injury to Joe Burrow, right? Like these are those moments that it creates these opportunities to improve the roster where it needs to be improved. Let's look at some. I'll give you one more winner. Actually, I'll give you one more winner. Yeah. My other winner is the AFC West. I think there's just been just a cloud over the AFC West for every other fan base for a lot of years on what this streak has meant. Now, for anyone that hasn't seen all the numbers, the last time the Chiefs missed the playoffs was 2014. I was still sitting on a tour bus playing country music for a living, right? Like, that's how long this thing has been going on. But if you look at the Broncos and you look at the Chargers, 2 teams that have absolutely put together electric seasons at this point. The Chargers' ability to play as well as they've had with the injuries they've had has been incredible. And watching the Broncos yesterday was just a reminder that, we need to start talking about the Broncos in a Super Bowl conversation. So when you look at how good those teams are, it still feels like it's all for what? Because every year this division belongs to the Chiefs. This little crack in the armor of the Chiefs having this sort of a year, above and beyond what happened yesterday with the injury, just the Chiefs having this sort of a year where everything kind of imploded on them and all their weaknesses finally became too glaring to cover up, becomes an empowering moment for the rest of the AFC West to realize, hey, we can go out and win this division. We can compete on our own. Let's look at some of the losers. Give me a loser you've got in your mind.
At TV ratings, Netflix, who obviously has coughed up a ton of cash. I mean, the Chiefs are going to be playing on Netflix on Christmas Day. We saw the Chiefs and the Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day be the most watched NFL game in history. I understand that a large part of that is because it's the Cowboys, but also because it's the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Yes, it's still the Chiefs, but a Patrick Mahomes-less Chiefs team, ooh, that's not nearly as intriguing. I don't want to, on Christmas Day be signing up to watch a bunch of backups in a time and on a day where I have maybe some more important things to do. So I think it's the TV ratings and it's Netflix and it's all of these networks who are signing up to get the eyeballs that Patrick Mahomes brings that he won't moving forward.
You mean Gardner Minshew isn't going to be the same level of draw? I can't imagine. Look, you mentioned
Look,
some
we
of the
love Gardner
losses here.
Minshew.
Yeah,
However,
I mean, Gardner's a delight. I'll stick with the Chiefs on a loser here, and that's all of us that have loved watching Travis Kelce's career. Like, it hit me as Kelce walked off the field yesterday. What if that's the last time we ever see Mahomes to Kelce? And as much as certain tandems become exhausting when you're watching them have just year in and year out success, I often say that those are the very tandems that when we're grandparents, we sit on the front porch and say, I watched Mahomes to Kelce, right? Like, I watched Kelce walk off the field last night, and I just kept thinking, for somebody that has accomplished so much, for it to end that way, not just a loss, not just the elimination from the playoffs, but to have somebody that has meant so much to your career and a friend go down injured that way, and realize that that's it. Like, there was no plan for it. There was no big moment. You didn't get your grandiose sort of farewell tour on it. If that was it for Mahomes and Kelce, man, that's not the way I thought it would end. I kind of wanted to see some beautiful 3-touchdown game where nobody could stop Kelce, even if he looked old as hell, and just watch that moment happen. So I think we all lose a little bit on that. I'll also give you another loser here. I think the Bills and Patriots, we mentioned them as winners earlier, but, man, I don't know. I also think that there's such a heightened pressure now. And look specifically at the Bills for a second. We got the Patriots up here, but you look at heightened pressure and you think about what it means. Now that there's no Mahomes, everybody's going to run out. Well, this got to be the year. You better do it. And so if you're the Patriots, you've never even been in this situation. If you're the Bills, every year we say, well, you got to find a way to break through. I think weirdly the pressure just actually went higher for some of the teams in the AFC, because now we're all going to be sitting here saying, you better get, if not this year, then when? Like, if you are Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, if you are the New England Patriots in a resurgent year, when you have looked as good as you've looked and you're in these situations, you don't win. I think there's actually a heightened pressure on everybody in this process. Fair or not, it'll be part of the legacy that we talk about for whatever quarterback doesn't win a Super Bowl when there isn't a Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs. Give me another loser for you.
The 2026 Chiefs, because this isn't just the biggest, saddest cherry on top of just a poop Sunday that was the 2025 Chiefs. But Patrick Mahomes more than likely will not be back to 100% Patrick Mahomes, at least for another calendar year. That's usually how long I look at an ACL recovery. And look, you might be able to say, yeah, Patrick Mahomes can get back on the field maybe September of next year, right at the beginning of next season. But that's no guarantee that you're going to get 100% Patrick Mahomes. Just because you can be out there, just because you are medically cleared to play, doesn't mean that you're going to be playing up to that same level. So this isn't just a massive loss for the 2025 Chiefs. This is going to be a gray storm cloud that lingers over 2026 as well.
Yeah, this is the sort of moment that, especially this late in the season, again, first and foremost, everybody that's a football fan wants to see Mahomes get healthy. But it will be interesting to see what Mahomes looks like on the other side of this. And this is that moment when we always compare Mahomes and Brady, where we remind people that Brady went through a significant gap in the middle of his career where there weren't Super Bowls for a reason. So we'll see how Kansas City responds to this new adversity. We're just getting started with reaction to some of the big news. Mahomes is not the only person that suffered an absolutely catastrophic injury yesterday. Micah Parsons went down. We'll get you an update on his injury and what it means for the Packers' Super Bowl chances next. Packers star Micah Parsons believed to have suffered a torn ACL versus that via Ian Rappaport. And I struggle to remember a day. I don't pretend to be a perfect historian, Caroline Fenton, but I struggle to remember a day in NFL history where two household names, two superstars, two of the best players in the league go down in the same day with catastrophic injuries. And that's exactly what we saw. Two ACLs, because we already talked about Mahomes, and now we add Micah Parsons to that list. And a non-contact. He was running after the quarterback, and you just saw the leg give out. Absolutely heartbreaking news for Micah, who's having an incredible season for the Packers and an incredibly difficult piece for the Packers to figure out now. I mean, you start thinking about this, Caroline. The ramifications on this are huge for the player and for the team.
I mean, I hate this overall on a day when you have Patrick Mahomes and Micah Parsons going down with ACLs. It just sucks. It's inevitable, unfortunately, part of the game, but it really just does suck to see. And it's terrible to see this for this Packers team, that when they made the Micah Parsons move, this was we are going for it. We view ourselves as legitimate Super Bowl contenders, and we are willing to push all of our chips into the middle to capitalize on this window that we feel like we are in. And that's not to say the Packers can't go on a run. I still think the Packers are going to make the postseason. I still think the Packers can be an incredibly dangerous team in the postseason, but like you trade for Micah Parsons to be the difference in the NFC Championship game. You trade for Micah Parsons to capitalize on big plays in the Super Bowl. Like, you trade for Micah Parsons to be the difference in the postseason. And look, this is still a good team around Micah Parsons, but this is a significantly less intimidating defense without Micah Parsons, understanding that every single game down the stretch for the Packers is going to matter. There's a lot of jockeying at the top of the NFC North. Every game matters for this Packers team.
Well, and that's why I think, Caroline, when I look at the impact of Micah Parsons, I look at wiggle room, right? Like, to your point, there is just so little room for error for most teams, and especially in the North, as packed as the North is. Now you lose a cheat code on defense that can help save you. And where this gets difficult for the Packers is, where do you turn? Injuries are just starting to riddle this team. If we're just looking at the NFC North now, the standings in the NFC North are already wildly tight. It's already really competitive. It's already very difficult to find your way through. And the Packers certainly are in good playoff positioning right now. But at this point, when you look at the way the standings line up, I mean, you've got the Bears at 10-4. You've got the Packers at 9-4-1, half a game back. The Lions at 8-6. There's just so little margin there. And so on a day where yesterday we saw Christian Watkins get hurt, we saw Micah Parsons go down, we saw what I think is the worst of something. I feel like everybody's been championing Jordan Love over and over and over again nationally. I understand it. There are moments of Jordan Love that are very good. I just think that there are moments of Jordan Love where he puts the ball at risk for no good reason. And so we saw a little of that yesterday. We saw a Packers team that at times looked like the best of the Packers and at times looked like they were lost against that Broncos defense. Without Micah Parsons, everything else has to just go perfectly for the Packers to get to where they want to be. And that's the hardest thing. You're right. This is not suddenly a bad football team, but this is no longer a cheat code football team. And I think that's a difference.
And it's a team that I think at the beginning of the season absolutely looked like it could be a Super Bowl contending team. But you bring up Christian Watson, broken collarbone, he's out for the season. And then you also have to go back several weeks ago to Tucker Kraft's torn ACL. I mean, Tucker Kraft added such a level of explosiveness. He was a matchup nightmare at times. So now you're down two of your most reliable pass catchers who play very, individualistic roles. You have Josh Jacobs, who's banged up. They have injuries on the offensive line. So, and then now no Micah Parsons. And you looked at the difference in that game yesterday. A big difference to me could have been as simple as, when the Denver Broncos scored touchdowns, the Packers had to settle for field goals. So when you're in a game like that, a game like they were yesterday, when the difference is, hey, when you're in, 3 out of the 4 trips in the red zone in the first half, you have to kick a field goal instead of finding yourself in the end zone. And now your certain edges are gone. An edge, meaning Micah Parsons gives you an edge defensively. Christian Watson gives you an edge offensively. Those edges and those differences in the margins are gone. Then that comes to fruition, the fact that you're kicking field goals goals instead of finding the end zone. Well, when you're up against one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the National Football League. So I still think the Packers are a good team. I still think that we can see Jordan Love play up to his ceiling. And when he does play up to his ceiling, he can play with some of the best of them in the NFL. I just don't view this team as a Super Bowl contender anymore because they don't have those edges.
It's alarming, too, how different this offense looks when Christian Watson isn't part of it. I don't know why they can't get the rest of the passing game going, but when he is on the field or off the field, huge difference. And Josh Jacobs, by the way, banged up also, but still got 12 carries out of him, got some productivity. So who wins the North? Are you in on Green Bay winning the North?
I still think, and obviously I feel significantly worse about this take than I did yesterday or 2 days ago. I still think the Packers are able to win the NFC North, and it has so much to do with the upcoming schedule. The Packers go to Chicago, which is not going to be easy. I understand that. And then they get the Ravens, which, albeit Lamar Jackson in that Ravens offense feels like it found a level of explosiveness that we haven't seen really at all this season. But I'm not going to marry myself to the idea that that's going to be this Ravens team week in, week out. And then they finish the season at the Vikings. Whereas, if you look at the Bears' upcoming schedule, the Bears have an absolute gauntlet. Obviously, they get the Packers. Like I said, they get the Packers at home, but still the Packers. And then the Niners and then the Lions. And that's going to San Francisco. So that's a cross-country road trip at the end of the year when you're already tired and you're already banged up. So I think the schedule bodes well for the Packers. But the injuries make me incredibly nervous moving forward. Fitz, who do you have? Are you on the Packers train?
Look, I think the Packers are a better football team, but I think the injuries have me so worried about it that I'm going Bears. I'm going Bears, and I can't believe I'm going Bears, but maybe I'm prisoner of the moment. I am prisoner of the moment. I watched Caleb Williams yesterday against that Browns defense just absolutely run around, looks so good. And I love the fact that even afterwards, when he was asked about a risky throw, he's like, I can make every throw. Like, there's just a level of chaos to what Caleb is doing right now that works for me. Plus, I keep thinking it comes down to this last game of the season, right? The very last game of the season is going to be Lions at Bears. We just saw that. Like, I'm in New England right now, which obviously isn't Chicago, but it's northern latitude. It's like 12 degrees outside, and it's cold.
Oof.
Like, you think 12 is cold. It's colder than 12 sounds. I watched that game yesterday saying, I don't know how you play in those conditions, and Caleb did. Like, Caleb looked like a rock star in that. If the Lions and their cute little indoor stadium Lions have to go to that, like if Jared Goff's got to play at Wrigley, good Lord, I'm putting him in a baseball stadium. If he has to play at Soldier Field, I don't think he stands a chance. So I'm going to go.
He also wouldn't play
Bears.
well in Wrigley either, to be fair.
Well, that's probably fair, too. It's still outdoors. Part of this, too, is that, we just watched this moment yesterday for the Lions. Like, let's get to it. They come up short against the Rams, 41-34, in a game that by halftime I thought, no, the Lions got this. The Lions got this. And then over the course of it, I kept thinking about something you have said so many times. What coach do you trust? Man, I watched Sean McVay just wipe the floor with the entire Lions coaching staff yesterday. It was that was one of those moments that just solidified all the doubts that any of us have in the Lions this year.
And watching that game, I thought the Rams aren't going to go down like this, but they were down 24-14 at one point in the second quarter. And I was like, there's no way. Like, there's going to be another level. There's going to be adjustments that are made. Like, there is no way that the Rams are going to lay down and roll over that easily. And that's exactly what we saw. I mean, the Rams absolutely exploded in the second half. They scored, on 4 of their next 5 possessions after going down by like double-digit points in the second quarter. I mean, this Rams offense had over 500 yards of total offense, at least. I mean, 7.5 yards per play. They ran the ball incredibly well. And I think one thing that I thought was impressive was Matthew Stafford obviously threw the pick early. He hasn't been doing a whole lot of that this season, but he just totally ignored the pick, just totally forgot about the pick, moved on, was a goldfish, forgot about it, and then continued to find the end zone or at least score on the next consecutive drives. I thought that was very telling about why I trust the Rams so much. How much I trust the Rams is because of they can make a mistake like that. They can be down double digits, and you still can't count this Rams team out. They are so unflappable, it feels like at times.
Yeah, and their defensive line is just such a difference maker. I feel like I'm a broken record every week saying there's no more electric player to me in the NFL than Gibbs. Gibbs 13 carries for 38 yards. Like, if Jahmyr Gibbs is getting you less than 3 yards a pop, in fact, as a team, Gibbs and Montgomery together combined 20 carries for 70 yards. That's not good. It was so clear that
Not
even
good.
when the Lions had a lead at one point, it's like, okay, they didn't need to abandon the run. They got the lead, all right? Like, at this point, churn it and burn it. Get into your extended offense. Get into that 4-minute offense. Start killing some clock, doing all these different things. They couldn't do any of that. Like, in a game where Amon-Ra St. Brown had 164 yards receiving and Jamison Williams had 134, like, even with all that productivity from the passing game, the Lions just couldn't establish the line of scrimmage. And I just watched them get out toughed, and this is the toughest part about trying to figure out what's wrong with this Lions team. This Lions team is no longer an image of Dan Campbell. When I think Dan Campbell, I think toughness. I think beat you at the point of attack. I just think tough guy. Like, part of the greatness of Dan Campbell is that you listen to him talk and you want to run through walls. He's such an inspiring, sort of motivating, fire you up dude that we've forgiven the biting the kneecaps, right? Like, we look at that and say, no, that's who Dan Campbell is. Where's the kneecap biting in this football team? The Lions, frankly, look explosive, but they don't look like they control the line of scrimmage. The Lions don't look like they can go out and control a game. The Lions don't go out and say, this is our team, our way, our field, get out of the way. The Lions go out and they have all of these explosive moments that are really fun to watch. They're playing video game football. I don't think of Dan Campbell as a video game football coach. I think of him as a physical football coach. I can't find the physical out of the Detroit Lions, and the Rams absolutely hammered that and took advantage of it yesterday. You want to out video game football Sean McVay, you are going to lose. I feel like the Lions have lost their identity in this process.
It was such a brutal day for Detroit defensively to get beat up the way that they did. And look, this Rams offense, they're going to get theirs. Like, when we talk about, coaching chess match and a coaching chess battle, like, Sean McVay is going to get his against the best defensive coaches in the National Football League. It's how can you respond and how can you limit them? Well, the Detroit defense didn't limit them even in the slightest. The Rams had 30 first downs, Fitz. 30 first downs. And what is one of Dan Campbell's claim to fame? It's being aggressive on fourth down, not just going for it on fourth down offensively, but also how tough they can be at the lines of scrimmage on third and fourth and short. The Lions want to be the more physical side. They just want to dominate you physically on the lines of scrimmage. Well, the Rams are 3 for 3 on fourth down. It felt like everything that the Rams do well and the Rams do better traditionally than other teams, they did better than the Lions. But they also did better than the Lions, what traditionally the Lions do better than everybody else. They just out-physicaled them on both lines of scrimmage. And it didn't feel like a Dan Campbell, to your point, a Dan Campbell identity kind of game. It felt like the Rams just bullying up on a Lions team that usually bullies up on other teams.
It's a theme this year. We keep waiting for wake-up calls for certain teams. At some point, we just need to accept that they are awake. They're just not who we thought they were going to be. We'll get some thoughts on a wild Sunday, especially a chilly Sunday in Chicago. What do we make of what we saw from Caleb? Danny Parkins joins the show next. We'll get his thoughts on it. Caleb Mother Bleepin' Williams, WTF. Wow, that is perfectly said by Danny Parkins. You can find him weekdays on FS1's First Things First. Danny, that was one of many Caleb-related tweets, which we respect, that came out yesterday. We could have pulled as part of that segment. So what did you see yesterday? Just give me your now that you've had a little bit of time to thaw out from watching that game. Caleb, did he emerge into some new status for you?
Man, that's dirty work, guys. Bringing it in-game tweets are sacred. Okay, I cannot be held to the sanctity of what happens in the game. When the Bears game is on, I feel like that should all be scrubbed from social media. It's like, wow, I really am a wordsmith. Caleb Mother Bleepin' Williams. Wow, that's why they pay me the big bucks. No, I don't think he entered another. I don't think he entered another stratosphere because I already held him in very high esteem. And I think that people sometimes lose the plot with him because they look at the completion percentage or they see the Bears run game. Caleb has arguably the best arm in football. And he took 68 sacks last year, and that's been cut dramatically. He's been clutch. He's gotten better as games have gone on. And I thought that was arguably his best game yesterday. The Browns are a top 5 or were a top 5 pass defense. It was sub-zero temperatures. And he would have had a 300-plus yard game if not for a couple of huge drops by his teammates. I thought he was accurate. He threw with authority. Obviously, it was a blowout. But I thought that was one of his more impressive games as a pro.
We also saw, speaking of sacred in-game tweets, we saw another great tweet from you, gloating about what happened to win a bet with your colleague Chris Broussard. Had something to do with the Bears? What was the bet?
Yeah. Well, I love Brew, and he's one of the nicer people in all of humanity. But he said something so ridiculous on television this week that it offended my sensibilities, and I needed to profit from it. But Brew is a man of faith, and so he doesn't gamble money, but he was happy to gamble a dinner because he said Shedeur Sanders will outplay Caleb Williams. Not can, not might, but will outplay him. And so I asked if we could do a wager on it, and I was like, Brew, you and I have never gone out to dinner, just the two of us. And he was so cocky and so confident. He's like, well, let's just do a tab with you, me, Nick, Wilds, Coach Mangini. And then I got to be honest, even though I was very confident I was on the right side of the bet, I was like, Brew, you've been on TV for like a decade. I was a local radio guy before this. And now this potential dinner tab has gotten very expensive. But I'm thinking steakhouse this week because Caleb comfortably outplayed Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah. I mean, but what kind of steakhouse? Like, we go in a fancy steakhouse? Like, are we going in an a la carte steakhouse to make it hurt a little bit so he thinks a little bit about it next time?
Brew's paying. Brew is paying. We're going to one of those that have the shellfish tower and the bone-in ribeye. Yeah, absolutely.
Of course. Get a nice little tomahawk.
Yeah.
I feel like the number of
before the bottle of wine,
Of course.
The number of years you've been on TV equate to the number of drinks each person's allowed to order on that tab. It feels like that's the only way.
That's fair.
That works. I was saying if I was like, we'll go out for like tacos. We'll go out for tacos and margaritas if Shedeur would have outplayed him. But now that Brew did it, I feel like, bottle of wine for the table.
I don't know, Danny, though. You can sell that, though, because don't just go tacos. Just tell everybody it's your favorite taco truck, and then they're like, oh, this must be cool. That's the way you get away with it.
Yeah,
what did we learn from Shedeur? 100%. What did we learn from Shedeur yesterday?
Shedeur, listen, Shedeur, I think that the media has collectively lost its minds on Shedeur. Like, Shedeur should be treated like a fifth-round rookie quarterback on a bad team. Not as like, before the draft, we kind of thought that he was going to be great and could have been the number 1 pick in the draft. Well, we were wrong. We were wrong. The NFL told us what they thought of him, and his only road game prior to yesterday was at Vegas. He completed 11 passes. The numbers looked pretty good because there was a 66-yard touchdown that involved 65 yards after the catch on a 1-yard swing pass. Then there was the game against Tennessee that a lot of people crowned him as a franchise quarterback, in which he lost to the worst team in the NFL. He played very well. I was very impressed with him in this game, and Shedeur maybe will be good, and I'm rooting for him because he genuinely seems like a pretty likable guy. But I think that people wanting to be like, well, the Browns should pass on a quarterback in the draft based on what he did against the Titans. It's crazy. Like, he went into Soldier Field. It was freezing. He played the number 1 takeaway defense in the NFL, and he had there were 3 turnovers in the game. So he might be okay eventually, but he's not a franchise guy right now. And so for his own benefit, I think people need to pump the brakes on him a little bit.
I think that's the only right answer. He might be good. He's just not all that great right now. And that's okay to have that kind of opinion on Shedeur Sanders. Not everybody needs to have, their minds made up about what he is or what he can become. But I mean, I guess you want to say the lone bright spot for the Cleveland Browns is Myles Garrett. It is the poster child for that.
Yeah, and it's been that way for a few years.
Yeah, it's like he's the Maserati in the trailer park. He's Shohei Ohtani with the Angels. How do we fairly evaluate Myles Garrett when he is truly the Maserati in the trailer park, when he's on track to break the single season sack record, when he's going to run away with Defensive Player of the Year on a team that's not even sniffing the playoffs? How do we, give a guy like that his flowers appropriately?
Well, I think that's why we created Defensive Player of the Year, right? He'll win that unanimously, like you said. I think should be universally regarded as the best defensive player in football. And Myles Garrett shows this. Like sometimes when great players are on bad teams, we can feel badly for them, or we can say, man, I wish that this team would trade that player away because I want to see them, play in January and play on a contender. Myles Garrett requested a trade, said his goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. And then they gave him a contract with a lot of zeros and commas in it. And he was like, you know what? Cleveland to Canton sounds good. So do I wish he was on a better team as a football fan? Yeah, but he chose the money, and that's totally okay. I probably would have done the same thing. And he's having a historically great season, and he is a historically great player. He's one of the best defensive players of my lifetime. But I don't have a very hard time, I guess, putting him into context or giving him his flowers. He's the best defensive player in football who happens to play on a bad team, and he chose to play his entire career on a bad team.
So let me be deep for a second then, Danny. Why? Because I agree with everything you just said, right? But here's my constant deep thought on edge rushers. We are watching right now historic edge rushers all over the league that are dominating, and many of them are on bad football teams. And we're like, yeah, that's just the way it is. Why can't we take that same logic to the quarterback? Why is it that you suck as a quarterback unless you win a Super Bowl, but you can be the greatest defensive player of your generation, and it's okay that you're on a terrible team? Why do we accept that an edge rusher is one of 53, but we make a quarterback 53 into one?
Well, I'm not sure if you're thinking about any quarterback specifically, but I'm with you. Quarterback wins, wins are a team stat. This isn't the NBA where you're one of 5 on the court. You're one of 11 on your team on the field, one of 22 on the field at once, right? So winning in the playoffs and rings and trophies and all of that is how we absolutely parse the greatness when we're talking about GOATs. If you want to get into the Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady conversation, yeah, I think we can all agree that you need postseason hardware in order to get there. But football is the job of a general manager in the NFL is to evaluate and isolate individual talent within a team performance. If you're a great deep ball, route runner and pass catcher as a wide receiver, but your quarterback's got a noodle for an arm, he can't get you the ball. It's not on you as a wide. I don't think Justin Jefferson got worse this year because of the quarterback situation in Minnesota, right? These things are very complementary. So when you were talking, Fitz, I was thinking about, Justin Herbert. To me, Justin Herbert, when I watched the games, is very clearly a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. There's just no doubt in my mind, he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's got the arm, he's got the brains, he's got the toughness, he's got the mobility. But in the past, he's been let down by injuries around him. He's been let down by his coaching. He's been let down by bad special teams. This year, he seems to have the coach. He has the kicker, and his offensive line has been decimated, and he still is going to take the Chargers to the playoffs. If I had an MVP ballot, and by the way, I should, Justin Herbert would be a top 5 guy for me this year, no question, but people have a hard time putting him on that elite level because he doesn't have a playoff win yet. And admittedly, his playoff loss last year to Houston was bad, and the collapse against Jacksonville a few years ago, though not on him, was certainly bad. He's 0-2 in his playoff career, but Justin Herbert's a top 5 guy in the NFL. There's no question about it if you watch, and the wins is not something that I really hold against him.
So let's stick on that AFC quarterbacks without a Super Bowl ring trend. because this will be yet another year that Joe Burrow and the Bengals do not have a Super Bowl ring. They get destroyed by Baltimore just days after his press conference where he said, "I'm not having fun. If I'm gonna continue doing this, I have to be having fun." Are we gonna see Joe Burrow demand a trade out of Cincinnati?
It's a great question. Diana Rossini reported, no, that he just wants to win and that he's not talking. This isn't like an Andrew Luck situation and anything quite like that. But what I said when those comments came out were like Mike Brown has to get on the private plane. Duke Tobin has to stop scouting college games. Zach Taylor had to stop game planning for Baltimore. And you had to get in a room with Joe Burrow and be like, hey, what are we talking about? Like, are we just frustrated because we got eliminated from the postseason? Are you frustrated because of your injuries? Like, is it you or is it us? Because if it's us, we want to change. This is not an equal partnership, right? Like the Bengals were the Bungles before they got Joe Burrow, and if Joe Burrow left, they probably would go back to being the Bungles again. So like they have to do anything necessary to make sure that Joe Burrow wants to continue playing football in Cincinnati. If it's a him thing and he's just like fallen out of love with football and he's had too many injuries and he's been too beat up and he doesn't like fame and the spotlight anymore because of some things that have happened in his personal life that he felt like were kind of an overstep in terms of invasion of privacy, both literally and figuratively, with how the media covered him. Well, okay, then you can't really help that, and maybe he'll walk away from football. But if he is not thinking it's fun because of anything the Bengals are doing, then they have to make whatever changes are necessary in order to keep him happy.
Well said by you. Let's stick with quarterbacks in the AFC for a second. Obviously, Mahomes goes down yesterday. That's heartbreaking for everybody that loves football. We all know your colleague, Nick Wright, is the biggest Chiefs stan in all the media. So have you checked in on Nick? How's Nick doing with the Chiefs being eliminated? Have you given him a hug? Like, where are we?
Hug? we have the type of
poor Chiefs fans.
It's more of a ball busting friendship. Listen, Nick and I stood at each other's weddings. He is my best friend, and we watch most NFL Sundays together. But we did not watch yesterday. We FaceTimed right before kickoff to kind of gauge each other's confidence level in our teams and discuss wagers and that sort of thing. And then I know better than to reach out after a game like that. I will see him in a couple of hours today at First Things First. I know that he is devastated that Mahomes' injury is awful. Let's be honest. I'm sure he'll have a wildly informed and insightful and entertaining take on it. But as much if I was in person, I maybe would have given him a few comments. But you never quite know how that text message is going to land. So I didn't feel the need to twist the knife. And like you said, it's not just that they were eliminated; it's that Mahomes tore his ACL. So like that's just sad. Like I can make jokes about the Chiefs' season being over. Like okay, you've had your run, but Mahomes now hopefully he'll be back for the start of next year. It was 270 days until the opener yesterday, assuming the opener is September 10th. That's exactly 9 months. You can come back from an ACL in 9 months, but we'll get more details on if it was extra ligaments or any damage or anything like that. Right now, the reporting seems like it's a pretty clean ACL, and if that's the case, I think you'd expect Mahomes to be back for next year. But obviously, this is now one of the biggest stories of the offseason.
Danny, Bears winning the Super Bowl this year. Go ahead, just let us know. Bears win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that'd be great. That would be great. Man, that would be good for my career and my bank account. Listen, probably not, but I would say that about every team in the NFL. But probably not. There is no juggernaut this year. The two teams that were in the Super Bowl last year, like the Eagles, they'll be there, but they've been proven that they can be beaten. The Bears just blew them out on Black Friday. The Chiefs aren't there. Think about the quarterbacks that are going to be atop these conferences, like Bo Nix, Drake May. Like lot of questions with these guys, So it does feel wide open. I think the Rams are the best team, but maybe it breaks and the Bears get the 1 seed and they've got to come out of LA and go to Soldier Field and play in sub-zero temperatures. So I love the Bears coach. I love the Bears quarterback. I love their running game. The takeaways, I don't know if it's sustainable, but it has been this year. So they've got basically as good a shot as anybody, is what I'll say.
You guys can watch him on FS1's First Thing First. Follow him on Twitter, X at Danny Parkins. Danny, we'll see you at Super Bowl. Taco Bell on us. That's hang out.
Oh,
with
wow.
me,
Big
with
spenders.
Taco,
Big
hey,
spenders.
you know what? Well, Taco Bell really on Yahoo. I mean, I'm gonna put it on the corp card, but still,
Yeah, of course.
it's on us. I mean, let's get reasonable here.
Well, I appreciate it anytime, and thanks for having me on. You guys do a great job.
Thanks,
Great stuff from Danny there. We'll have him back when the Bears are in the Super Bowl. All right, coming up next, Rivers came up just a little bit short in Seattle. We'll tell you about it. Phillip Rivers joins Brett Favre as the only grandfathers to throw a touchdown in an NFL game. I don't know how many grandfathers have played in NFL games to not throw touchdowns, but we do know that Phillip Rivers came out and did the damn thing. I mean, shout out to Gramps Papa, is whatever we want to call him at this point. 18 to 27, 120 passing yards, a touchdown, an interception at the end, pushing the ball down the field to try and put it back into it. Really, honestly, Caroline, a very respectable effort. I joked on Friday that he might not even make it to the second drive, especially against that Seahawks defense. And I'm telling you, he took some hits and bounced right back up from. For as many jokes as we made about the way he looked and, the fact that maybe he'd put on a few extra paw pounds, he handled that beating that Seattle gave him. He handled that defense really well and remarkably put the Colts in a situation where they could have won the game. They had the lead with like 20 seconds left. It was almost there for them.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this on Friday, and I was like, I don't want to watch this. Like, I don't want to watch a guy who I and the entire football community has so much respect for, because I thought it was going to be uncomfortable. I thought it was going to be ugly. I thought it was going to be one of those things like, no, Phillip, don't do this to your legacy. Like, don't let this be the lasting image that we have of you after a Hall of Fame caliber career. But it wasn't hard to watch. Like, it was fun to watch. It became one of those games that so many friends of mine were texting me, like, are you watching this game? Are you watching Phillip Rivers at 44 years old with a grandchild to, go into Seattle and potentially take down the big bad Seahawks? And that's what it felt like. So even on a day where the Colts fell to the Seahawks, and credit to the Seahawks for finding a way, even on a day where the Colts lost, I still thought it was a great story. I still think it was something that everyone that was watching games on Sunday wanted to tune into to see what Phillip Rivers was doing in a positive way, not like a, oh, poor guy kind of way. So the story is about the Seahawks, but I think that I still come away from a loss for the Colts on a day where I thought it was going to be ugly, and it was actually kind of fun and kind of inspiring. But the story is the Seahawks, Fitzy.
To that end, though, my respect for Shane Steichen continues to go through the roof, and his ability to try and make chicken salad out of chicken. You know what? That defense also
Totally.
for the Colts came to play. Like, that defense was doing everything they could. But you're right. I think the story here is shame on you, Seattle. And let me be loud here about how bad the Seahawks were in this game. Your offense is out of rhythm. Your offense is out of sync. They can't do anything. There is no more imposing their will of late. It just looks like the Seahawks offense the rhythm of the Seahawks offense is completely broken. And I don't know how you fix it. Sam Darnold looks like he's seeing ghosts again. The number of times it felt like there was a dump off. He could just take a few yards, didn't know what to do with the ball, took some hits he didn't need to take. It felt like he was hanging onto the ball at the wrong time, getting rid of it the wrong time. Everything Sam Darnold did felt like it just looked difficult. This is a team that loves to run the football and establish run, but in the first half, they couldn't even establish drives. It felt like they weren't even on the field. The Colts came with the thunder of the gods. The Colts defense was mixing up coverages all over the place, and it didn't feel like the Seahawks had any reasonable answer to this. I think Seattle is capable, when they play their best, of being the best team in the NFC, but they are not playing anywhere near that anymore. So I'm looking at a Seahawks team saying, good God, what do you do? Like, the eye test has to matter right now. As we get close to the playoffs, it's not just about, well, you found a way to win. No, it's about how do you look going into the playoffs, because when you are playing against the best of the best, can you beat them? And right now, my level of faith in Seattle is dipping at a drastic rate, because they just don't look like they are ready to play quality football more often than not lately.
Well, and they have the game of the century of the week next week when they have another matchup with the Rams. Like, the NFC West is not over. It's gonna be it's gonna be a great game. I think that's the game of the year right there. But then they have Carolina and they go to San Francisco. I'm not going to turn up my nose at the Panthers. I'm not going to say, oh, okay, well, that's a game that the Seahawks are going to win. Not the way that the Panthers have been playing. Like, I saw a beautiful Bryce Young dime yesterday. And so I think about it. The Seahawks were taking on this Colts iteration of, I don't know, a month ago. The Seahawks, who didn't even find themselves in the end zone yesterday, probably get blown out by the Colts team that we saw in the first 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks of the season with a healthy Daniel Jones. So the Seahawks are trending in the wrong direction, but I will say, we still know what Sam Darnold is capable of, because we knew that Sam Darnold was capable of some absolute clunkers. We saw it in the first game against the Rams. I didn't feel like, even in a 4-interception game, that I saw some drastically different Sam Darnold that we hadn't ever seen before. It just came out of nowhere. No, we know that Sam Darnold, to your point, can see ghosts, can, make some costly mistakes. He can be very, not have great ball security, whatever it might be. We knew that Sam Darnold was due for some clunkers every once in a while. Maybe that yesterday was just the Sam Darnold clunker of the month, and it came on a day with a Colts team that was incredibly depleted with Peapaw at quarterback.
Well, and this is the problem for Seattle, is when they can't run the ball, everything just gets mucky. And yesterday, again, we did this last year, working together on some shows, and I'm just going to keep doing it again as we get into the playoffs. Look at the yards per carry and the efficiency of the run game to figure out if your team is actually any good when we get close to the playoffs. Zach Charbonnet, 8 carries, 31 yards. Kenneth Walker III, 9 carries for 17 yards. That is not at all the level of run support that this team expects. In fact, if you just look across the board, 22 rushes for 50 yards. As a team, they ran for 2.3 yards per carry. And then you wonder why the offense looks broken. When you can't run the football and everybody just crowds the line of scrimmage, boy, it just – and look, Jackson Smith-Njigba still had a day. 7 catches, 113 yards. He still had a day. And if you look at Sam Darnold's numbers overall, they're not bad. But if you watch the game, it just all looked difficult. And when you start settling for field goals over and over and over again in the red zone, and when you can't sustain drives over and over and over again, while you're also watching the other team, like you knew that the opportunity was put this game away. All Seattle had to do was get a 2-touchdown lead, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't get to that point that they were even putting stress on Phillip Rivers. So let me ask you on the Colts side of it, now that they've lost this game and it continues to free fall, are they done? You giving them any shot at turning this thing around for the playoffs?
I don't know. I really don't. Because as exciting and fun as it was to watch Phillip Rivers almost win this game, I don't see it. I mean, look at their upcoming schedule: San Francisco, Jacksonville, and Houston. I don't want to see Phillip Rivers up against the Niners or the Houston defense. Like, I really don't give them a very high chance of finding themselves in the postseason, which I hate that. I hate that for these Colts fans who have just been, I feel like been dangled the carrot in front of for so many years, have gone winless, or at least haven't won the division since Chris Ballard has been in Indianapolis. Like, I feel so bad for this fan base that had so much hope early in the season. I just don't give them a chance to make the postseason, not with this upcoming schedule.
Yeah, this is tough because they're a game behind the Texans. They obviously finished the season with the Texans. The Texans will have a very tough matchup in a couple of weeks against the Chargers. So, like, if I want to put on my poly positive hat and come on in and be like, I got the case for Monday positives here.
Go ahead.
Look, I think the Seahawks just showed them a far more difficult defense than the 49ers or the Jags will show them. The Texans are better. I get that clearly. This feels like I'm asking a lot. I want to say yes because I've been in on the Colts all year. When I look at the schedule, it just feels daunting. Like they realistically, they got to win 2 or 3 getting out, and that just, man, that feels like it's tough for Phillip Rivers. I don't know how to couch everything we saw this year for the Colts because this certainly looked like a Super Bowl team that now looks like a team that's hanging on for dear life. But, man, the way that defense played yesterday, if they can get anything going from Jonathan Taylor, if Phillip Rivers can just hand off for the next 3 weeks and they can have some success doing it, I think they can beat San Francisco. It's going to be tough.
I hate this for the rest of the season, and I also hate it for next year, too. Like, where do the Colts go from here?
They're going to have to – I don't know the answer to that. If they believe in Daniel Jones, are they just going to wait out – are they just going to wait out Daniel Jones' recovery from an Achilles and essentially admit that next year is a wash? Or do they bring in a quarterback next year that they think can actually compete? And who's that guy going to be that's going to want to come in on a 1-year rental while Daniel Jones is getting healthy? I don't know that there's a franchise right now more stuck, Caroline, to your point, for this year and next year, because if they reward Daniel Jones, they're also going to, with a big contract, they're essentially admitting that they don't want to compete next year either. We got a lot to break down with it. We'll continue to break that down, what the Colts should do and how it looks moving forward. But coming up next, we got to get to Stephen Godfrey. It was a wild, wild weekend. The Heisman Trophy ceremony. Man, you thought there was drama there. The real drama was after the trophy was given out. We'll get Godfrey's reactions to some of that drama next. F all the voters. That from Diego Pavia after he did not win the Heisman. Let's just say that he didn't necessarily handle it with the best grace. Now, he did put out an apology afterwards, a very long apology, one of those that you look at and say either congratulations or sorry. I'm not going to read all that. But Stephen Godfrey joins us now, co-host of College Football Inquirer. Let me just start this whole thing by being an inflammatory jerk. And I'm just going to say, like, if Shedeur Sanders had said the exact same things that Diego Pavia had said over the course of losing the Heisman, collectively, the entire world would have lost our minds. If we live in this world where Shedeur falls in the draft because people don't like his hubris, then nobody should ever draft Diego Pavia. Like, the way he handled it to me was shocking. Stephen Godfrey, talk me off a ledge. What'd you think?
I don't care. And I'm not trying to subvert the segment. The Heisman is the most self-serious event in college football, and it's because sports writers get to feel important for a day. Like, I know he shouldn't be saying F all that. Look, hey, I work with two Heisman voters, Andy Staples and Ross Dellinger on the Yahoo College Football Inquirer. F them, honestly. You know what? I hope that makes it back to them. You know what? Sometimes they're difficult to work with. Look, it's Diego Pavia. Do you think this was someone's introduction to Diego Pavia? Maybe a casual NFL fan? And if so, do you think that do you think a casual NFL fan is looking for a quarterback on their team next year? Which, by the way, this guy's not going to be a pro. God bless him. I've been around him. He just does not have the size. And he'd probably say F me for that. Like, is this going to be a thing? Do we need it to be a thing? He's young. He said something he shouldn't have. He was at a party and someone had like a we don't like Indiana thing or F Indiana. Like, it's all going to be fine. Indiana won the Heisman. Can we talk about that? Indiana in football.
We can, but I mean, at the same time, like that's fine if that's the way we're going to handle everything. Like, we definitely, like, my pushback to that is we consistently just absolutely rail every athlete for how they handle press conferences, for what they say afterwards, for if they're not cool enough. And Fernando Mendoza, like,
agree.
We do this to everybody. Yeah. So, like,
we do,
are we
and
doing
we shouldn't.
it to nobody? Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I'm these guys. Okay, ooh, it's like you guys wind me up on purpose on a Monday morning. All of you have been around. All two of you have been around college football and its media access, and it sucks. Okay, they keep these kids pinned in, and then we barely get to talk to them until events like the Heisman or the Combine or whatever. Maybe with some more media training, we could have rounded off the edges of Diego Pavia. But I had like an exclusive thing with him, like access to him moments after he beat Alabama last year. This is Diego Pavia. This is what you asked for. This is what you got. His edges are not rounded off. It's amazing that he made it to New York as quarterback of the Vanderbilt Commodores, and it's amazing that he lost to the quarterback of Indiana in tackle football. I was doing a Cosby there. Sorry, Indiana. I am Fitz, to your point about Shedeur. I'm fine with that as well. Shedeur, the thing that was complicated about Shedeur was that it was enabled by his father in those moments and simultaneously. The Sanders family, I think, stands apart. And the Sanders family, it's like, well, okay, well, Dion does have media training, and we're still doing this kind of stuff. I just don't care. It is not relevant to my interest right now. I'm not trying to subvert the segment. I understand this is what people are talking about, but we don't have to talk about that. We don't have to make the Heisman about what Diego Pavia did at an after party. And also, I do have to extend some grace as a 44-year-old to a 22, 24-year-old. I was a dirtbag at that age. Diego is a dirtbag right now. I just didn't have cameras on phones. We were all like, not all of us. Carolyn, I'm sure you're lovely at 24, 22. Okay. Fitz,
Thank you.
I bet he was a total dirtbag. All right. I guarantee.
Oh, I was out
right.
of control at 22. There's no doubt.
Dirtbags, right? It's just not the end of the world. I'm sorry. This kid played his behind off for Vanderbilt and elevated a program that I don't think anyone in the world could have predicted could have actually even been a playoff contender in any scenario. So, yeah, he made a boneheaded decision. He got emotional in the moment. This is also, though, the makeup of what made him a great quarterback and a great game-breaking quarterback for a program like Vanderbilt. So it's hard to turn that off. And also, like, just give the kid some grace.
We'll never do that. Never to, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old kids. But let's get into something else that a lot of people are talking about. Why does Kalen DeBoer's name keep coming up in some of these head coaching vacancies? It was Penn State, and he had to address it to a press conference, and now it's Michigan.
Isn't that magical? Isn't it strange?
It is.
It's so
Is
strange. I think there's a number of things. Shuts down any look at our graphic right now. I have not spoken and have no interest in speaking with anyone about any other job. That is the statement from Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer. So we're making it up in the media, right, guys? We're just making all this up. We just randomly picked a head coach of a playoff team and said he could be connected to these jobs. Is that what we did here? No, of course we didn't do that. I think that there's a sort of fan generation that doesn't understand that Alabama used to be something less than invincible, and that Alabama's head coach can and has in history gone to other places. Look it up. Do you know that Alabama's head coach after the millennium, after Y2K, left for Texas A&M? That happened. Look it up. Dennis Franchione. So this idea that the post-Saban Alabama is the same as the Saban Alabama, I think, is a little bit of a fallacy. There will be a media availability, I believe, today in Tuscaloosa. The question that was asked of Kalen DeBoer about previous jobs like Penn State will be asked again about Michigan until Alabama can lock in some sort of extension if they want to with Kalen. What's interesting about the timing here, Michigan was not expected to open. That's a whole other terrible circumstance in this time of year. They have a game this weekend. If they were to lose that game or win that game, I think it would dramatically alter the stakes around how much Alabama wants to invest in DeBoer in the long run and vice versa. And that's sort of what that's kind of the key thing here. You know, there was a ton of criticism of Kalen DeBoer last season. And I think the Kalen DeBoer camp feels like, whoa, guys, like, I know I'm following Nick Saban, but college football has changed so fundamentally. And by the way, like Alabama's NIL as an apparatus wasn't that great. They walked into the NIL era still thinking like, we're Alabama. Everybody just wants to come here and, they're going to be a first round draft pick. Like, all that's gone. So Alabama, I think, had a really bad case of not being able to self-examine correctly. And Kalen DeBoer is looking around going, if I lose to Oklahoma this weekend, a team they lost to this season, they got to go on the road. Are they going to want me fired? Like, are they going to lose their minds here? Or if we win 9 next year and I'm on the outside of the college football playoff. This guy was playing for an SEC championship 2 weeks ago, by the way. Are they going to want to make a change? Are they going to become meddlesome? Are they going to become intolerable? I think that's why this is happening. I think that's why the DeBoer camp is thinking like, all right, if I looked somewhere like Penn State, it was Penn State last week, or Michigan, like what kind of trajectory would I have? Coaches talk a lot privately about resetting their clock, which just means going to some place where the expectation hasn't expired. So that's why it keeps coming up. Is Alabama a better job than Michigan? It just depends on who you ask and what your goals are and what your expectations are as a head coach.
So who becomes the next head coach for Michigan?
Spit take, sorry. I don't know right now. And anyone who tells you that they do is completely full of it. I think that this is an not unprecedented, but highly unexpected moment. I don't think that it's hard to judge a sort of consensus top 10 job when the field has sort of closed itself off after a coaching cycle. We've seen unexpected openings before, usually followed by internal promotions because of NCAA sanctions or retirement or something like that. The field of available candidates is essentially gone, 90% of it, because you've had guys sign extensions or guys get hired away, and we close down the carousel at the top level. So it's really hard. I mean, we could talk about Tommy Rees, right? We could talk about, everybody wanted to talk about Matt Campbell with this job a couple years ago. Can't be Matt Campbell now. So it's hard to cobble together a list that I would feel confident coming on this show. Like if it was a couple weeks ago and you guys asked about one of the other open jobs, well, there's 3 or 4 candidates that we can discuss in context for all those jobs. I think right now Michigan is between a rock and a hard place. I think you have to think about Bryce Underwood. You have to think about maintaining the NIL. And there may or may not be a full, let's say, system-wide cleaning that might be really long overdue at Michigan as well. So if you're a prospective head coach, what are the expectations for what you're stepping in? That has not been clearly communicated from what I've been told. What are the expectations at Michigan, and what is the stability in Ann Arbor around this program?
You bring up Tommy Rees. Jed Fish is another name that's kind of been sprinkled around there in spaces. Let's look at the Tommy Rees side of things. He's never been a head coach in college football. He's 34 years old. Is he ready for a job like Michigan?
I don't know if anybody's ready for a job like Michigan right now, because I don't want to repeat myself, but I don't know if Michigan has its internal expectations correctly aligned with what's going on and what could happen. I think this is the conundrum. You don't turn down life-changing opportunities. We've all been there on like the media side of this. It's like, if you're not ready for the job, you just get yourself ready, because when the train leaves the station, it's going to leave with or without you. But then you start thinking about it in a different context, which is if you come in and you just walk into an absolute snake pit internally, or things are just completely out of alignment. We use the word alignment a lot, which really just means, is the university, the athletic department, the football program, and the boosters, are they all sharing the same expectation, the same timeline, and the same level of investment? I don't know what the case is right now at Michigan. So if I'm Tommy Rees and I've got this promising career, and think about it, he's been on the cusp of a lot of jobs. He came out of the Saban factory, obviously the Notre Dame connection, and then now he's got NFL bona fides. If Michigan calls and offers, it's like, well, how many times in my life is Michigan going to offer me a head coaching job? And then at the same time, you got to figure out, am I just dooming myself by going into this? Not because Michigan's a bad job. I want to be clear about this. It's because what if the situation is so bad in the short term? Or, hey, what if Ward Manuel's not the AD in a year or two? And then some other guy comes in and wants to completely reset the tone and the expectation. There were a lot of scandals at Michigan State. The same thing happened when they hired Jonathan Smith. That AD who hired him, his name escapes me off the top of my head, was kind of washed out with the previous administration and some of the other scandals. They brought in Jay Batt, the athletic director from Georgia Tech, and then they changed head coaches this cycle after just 2 years and spent a lot of money to bring in Pat Fitzgerald. That's what you're avoiding. And that's what Tommy Rees's camp has to sort of start really looking at. Is, I think, to answer your question in the longest winded way possible, you need a veteran to come in and know. You don't know what you don't know. And I think a veteran head coach needs to come in and kind of build a bulwark around this program for the time being, because I don't think everything's done at Michigan in terms of internal investigations, controversy, and scandal.
What does it say about modern college football that at least there are reports that Kenny Dillingham would be just as happy staying at Arizona State as he would be going to Michigan?
Well, Arizona State's a fine institution, Fitz. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. It's a great
wonderful place to. It's a wonderful place to achieve an education. All right. Did you say party school, sir?
Yes.
Come on.
Sir.
Leaders in innovation, Fitz.
That's right. They are leaders in innovation.
Whatever that means.
Innovative parties.
In alcohol funnel physics studies. Okay. I got kicked out of Ole Miss twice. Just want to throw that out there. I'm not making fun of Arizona State. Okay. I think it says a lot, again, within the context of Kenny Dillingham. I think had Florida State opened, Kenny Dillingham would have been the next head coach. So Kenny Dillingham, from like a personal, been doing this for 20 odd years perspective, he's number one on my board right now. Like John Summerall was number one on everybody's board going into this last cycle. Kenny Dillingham is number one on my board. I don't know if it's so much like, I don't want to insult anybody. I think Michigan and Kenny Dillingham would not pair well together. And you're going to have something from a cultural standpoint that would be more similar to the Rich Rodriguez experience than it would be to the Jim Harbaugh experience. You can kind of fill in where I'm headed with this, right? I think Kenny Dillingham is going to sit tight at his alma mater and try to get back to the college football playoff. And if a mega job opens, then I think he'll go. And I'm not saying Michigan's not a mega job. I'm just saying I don't think either side feels like this is the correct pairing for the moment. Did I tiptoe around that?
Yeah, you did. It was perfectly handled by you. We could talk about this all day long, but unfortunately, we have to keep going. So you guys can check out College Football Inquirer. Follow him on social media at 38 Godfrey. Always love the conversation. And where's your mug? Like, because I sent you a mug and you
didn't send me a mug. This is a show controversy.
I sent you
I
one
just
mug.
checked. I just no. The building. I get free stuff all the time sent to me. There's no package from Yahoo.
Oh, okay.
Somebody's going to be walking around. You know what? That's fine. But I'm making the company pay for the
Delaware football just sent me a bunch of Delaware football gear to wear on College Football Inquirer. That magically made it to my office, and this mythical mug sure didn't.
Yeah, so you're telling me you don't want to use the Yahoo Sports Daily mug that I sent you? It's fine.
I'm
Follow
just
him on
saying
social
maybe
media.
we could get it to the correct address.
Yeah, that's fine. By the way, Gojo says you look like Julian Sand.
Gojo's been on me. Yeah, he's been on me for a while. On this,
I kind of see it.
I'll take it.
Do we?
I'll take it.
I kind of see it. That's your long lost son.
Well, we need to get rid of that headshot. That was 6 pounds ago. We need to get rid of that. Look how short my hair was.
And you never know, Godfrey. I got on 23andMe and found out I had 2 half sisters I didn't know about. So maybe.
Did you really
find out that? Yeah. So maybe
that's a Hallmark movie.
Yeah, I found out my dad was out there in the streets in Vegas. Found out.
He wouldn't be the only one.
Okay. That's called undercutting in comedy because I was about to have a bit and then you killed it outright. I did look up. Here's the painful part, y'all. I looked up after Gojo started on this. They were like, "Oh yeah, da da da." I looked up and I was like, "Oh God, I could be his father mathematically. I'm not his father. I'm saying like the numbers are like
sure.
It's logistically possible. God,
now
I'm gonna go die now.
Too much. Find out if he has any other kids that are playing in college football by listening to College Football Inquirer. Godfrey, appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for hanging out with us.
See you next week.
Thanks, Godfrey.
Great stuff. Huge upset in the NBA this weekend has us asking the real question. Does the NBA need Wemby more or OKC more? We'll tell you next. Wemby came back just in time to lead the Spurs to a huge win over Oklahoma City, snapping the Thunder's 16-game winning streak. San Antonio headed to the NBA Cup Championship. And Caroline just watching this moment and just realizing, look, you and I have talked a lot about the greatness of Oklahoma City. That's not going anywhere. You and I had talked a lot about the greatness of Wemby. When we saw these two worlds collide, it suddenly became must-watch TV. It was destination. And it has me looking around thinking, man, what does the league need more? Wemby to turn out to be just the face of the NBA, or OKC to turn out to be this generation's dominant, oh my God, team? What would benefit the league more?
The league needs Wemby, I think, far more than it needs Oklahoma City. The league needs a superstar like Victor Wembanyama, and I think it's for a few reasons. Number one, the youths of today are far more aligned with individual players than they are with teams. And there's several reasons for that, right? That these young kids feel like they can connect with individual players, whether it's online, on social media, following their streams, following their YouTube pages. Like young kids feel like they can connect with individual players more. And they're consuming so much more short form content. So it's way easier for, let's say, a 15-year-old to watch Wemby highlights on a 60-second video on TikTok than it is to actually sit down and watch an entire game for OKC or whatever it might be. That young kids are fans of players more than they are of teams. I think the other thing too is we get so distracted, right? We have shiny ball syndrome. We're all guilty of it, especially young sports fans. So what fans are drawn to is something that's crazy, something that's show-stopping, something that we can see that has never been done before. Just Victor Wembanyama and his size alone is show-stopping and commands attention. And then you also see what he's able to do with his size. I mean, a guy of Wemby's size shooting the way that he shoots is something that we don't typically see in this sport. Whereas you look at OKC, we were talking about this, Fitz, actually on one of our post-show meetings. We were talking about why does OKC not have the same kind of draw that maybe the Golden State Warriors did when they were on their dynastic run? And we look at the Warriors, they were shooting the three at such a high clip. It was, high scoring, high offense. It was certified superstars, whether it was Steph or KD or Draymond. OKC doesn't play that kind of style. OKC just plays very good defense. They are very sound. Nothing that they do is totally, pop off the page, overly flashy. They're just better than everybody else. I think in today's sports society, flashy, it sells tickets, flashy draws eyeballs in, and flashy commands attention. That not the way that efficiency does. So I think the league needs the flashiness of Victor Wembanyama or of a singular superstar far more than it needs a mid-market, small-market team playing very efficient basketball.
The correction I would give to all of that, because I think you're right about the power of Wemby, but the power of a dynastic team is that it creates an all-new market. It creates all new sort of synergy. It creates all new eyeballs. To me, we have faces of the league all the time. Great teams, absolute transcendent teams. There was a time that kids don't remember where Golden State was basically a forgotten franchise in the NBA. There was a time where nobody gave a damn about the Warriors one way or the other. It took a dynastic run. I watched this game on Saturday thinking, wow, this is a great story and a great moment for Wemby, but I think it's actually bad for the league. At the end of the day, what the league needs is Oklahoma City to go on such an incredible run, it becomes undeniable. Such an incredible run that everybody gravitates to. It's such a historic level of winning that when we get to the playoffs, the only thing anybody's talking about is, oh my God, will Oklahoma City even lose a game? I think the best situation possible for the league is outright domination at a level we've never seen, because then you have no choice but to pay attention to a new brand. You have no choice but to pay attention to a new entity. You have no choice but to suddenly buy in when you realize that level of greatness. And levels of greatness like that also create heroes and villains. We talk about it all the time with the league. The league's at its best when there's a very easy target that everybody's chasing and half the world is rooting for them and the other half is rooting for them to get knocked off the perch. That is so hard to do individually. It's so hard for one man, even in the NBA, to become that. Like, we've seen historic greatness from guys like Jokic. Everybody cares for a season. But long-term, does anybody give a damn? No. In fact, we saw greatness, obviously, from Luka. Did it transcend the entire world? Much like Shohei. What did Luka have to do? He became a Laker. And then we all cared. Because when you put these team elements around that individual greatness, you get something special. Like SGA is already an MVP. He's already a transcendent player. We're looking at Wemby saying, become the face of the league. And I'm looking around saying, well, the face of the league could be SGA. It's just hasn't really metered that way. We wanted Anthony Edwards to be the face of the league. Has that suddenly changed interest in the NBA? One individual can sort of be a spark, especially for young people that already love the game. For fans of the game already, they'll find a player. You're right. They'll follow that player. They'll fall in love with that player. They'll go everywhere with that player. But when you really want to create transcendent conversation, cultural conversation, iconic conversation for everybody, historic winning does that. Use the NFL comp. Like, there was a period where people didn't really give a damn about the Chiefs. It took Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs going on a run. There was a period, I went as a little kid to Patriots games at Old Foxborough a couple of times. Nobody was in that stadium. It took Brady, yes, but it also took historic winning for a team. I think when you put a team element behind something like what Oklahoma City is doing, if they can shatter the all-time wins record, if they can go into the playoffs and just run through everybody, they force the entire collective mindset of sports fans everywhere and media everywhere to cover every ounce of it. That's why, even though I think Wemby has the opportunity to be once in a lifetime, if you get a transcendent dynastic team, more people flock to it.
And all very good points, 100%. I think what Oklahoma City, though, is lacking is the superstar. I mean, let's not act like we didn't pay attention to Luka when he was in Dallas. Like, let's not act like Luka was some nobody, then all of a sudden he became a Laker, and then now he's a household name. Like, we all knew Luka elevated that Mavericks team. If we want to compare this OKC team to the Golden State Warriors teams of that dynastic run, it wasn't just the fact that they were winning. It wasn't just the fact that they were consistently in the championship conversation. It was the way that they were winning. And it was the superstars that they had on that team. Like, those teams, like of KD and Steph Curry, like, those are celebrities. They will be recognized outside of the confines of sports fans or NBA fans. How many average people on the street, sports fans or not, would be able to recognize Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Chet Holmgren? I don't think very many. Like, this OKC team, yes, we know the team. And this OKC team is famous in NBA circles, but it has not this version of this OKC team, whether it's that they're still young, whether it's that they need to do a whole lot more winning, whether it's if they're maybe held back with it being in the confines of being a small market and you just have to do more as a small market to be culturally relevant. I don't know what it is, but they haven't yet broken through that barrier of being a superstar team, a celebrity team, a team that everybody can relate to or everybody flocks to. Big reason why the Chiefs became the Chiefs was that they were winning Super Bowls, yes, and they also had Travis Kelce, and they also had Patrick Mahomes, and they also had Andy Reid, these recognizable figures that superseded the sports world. OKC hasn't done that. I'm not going to say that they can't. If you continue winning, I mean, winning speaks for itself. Like, winning will help catapult you into that stratosphere. But they're just not there yet. Where I think Wemby already is. You can't deny Victor Wembanyama. You cannot deny his star power and his kind of his celebrity factor that he has that OKC just doesn't quite have yet.
But we all remember, for example, when Patrick Mahomes was drafted, nobody sat there and said, ooh, Patrick Mahomes. It takes winning, and it takes a minute. Like, sometimes these teams, it's a little like dating. You can fall in love, but boy, you don't want to say I love you too fast. You want to see it first, right? To your point, Jalen Williams is 23 years old. Chet Holmgren's 23 years old. SGA is only 27. Yeah. You start talking about what's it going to look like. Now, to your point, you're right. I've done this, and we've talked about this off air. I've gone into sports bars in the New England area with people that are wearing NBA jerseys, and I've asked them to name 3 players for OKC, and there are many that can't do it, right? There is still a learning process that has to happen, but there was a time when nobody knew who Klay Thompson was, too. I think the path to that for OKC is another set of domination. Now, Wemby is so transcendent because you're right. His size, the way he looks, the way he plays the game is all wildly different. But, my God, you walk into any room and people are going to recognize who Wemby is. Because he is such a physical freak in nature, I think he will have the chance for recognizability, Q rating, as they say in TV, much, much faster than most of the players for OKC. That's also, though, part of why I think historic levels of winning becomes important for OKC. If all they do is go in and win, so I say all, if they go in and win 65 games this year and become back-to-back champions, nobody's going to give a damn. If they win 75 games Now all of a sudden, if they go into the playoffs and they struggle to get their way to the finals and they struggle to beat a team like Indiana, it's not going to get that level of attention. If they go in and do historic levels of winning, that's really, for all of the conversation we have about Golden State, if you weren't an NBA fan and you lived in that era, you didn't really care until you suddenly realized they were about to pass Michael Jordan's Bulls. And then for an entire group of people that lived through that social phenomenon, you're like, oh my God, I have to pay attention to that. I think the hardest part to this, for me, OKC can be bigger, but OKC doesn't have the level of the wiggle room, the room for error. They're going to have to go in and set historic records for people to start to pay attention to Oklahoma City basketball.
If we just go back to the original question, though, like if the Knicks were doing this would be a completely different story. But OKC is not the Knicks.
100%.
So what does the league need more? What does the NBA need more? If my options are a mid-market team with very few certified superstars, if not no certified superstar. SGA is a basketball superstar. I understand that. He's not a celebrity like Steph is, like LeBron is. So does the NBA need a mid-market dynasty, or does the NBA need a 7'7" absolute freak who can shoot from anywhere on the court and is recognizable globally? That's what the league needs more. The league needs more of those show-stopping kind of players over a mid-market team in OKC, which granted is incredibly dominant. At this point, I think the league needs celebrities, needs a face of the league.
Well, maybe we can have our cake and eat it too. What we really need is Wemby to grow into this and try to be the giant killer for OKC. All right, we'll get back to breaking down some of what we saw over the course of the weekend. Sam Monson going to join the show. We'll figure out exactly what to make of these Patriots. We'll do it next. Where are the football math guys? What are the chances both championship games end up being divisional matchups? Feels way more likely this year than usual. That Sam Monson is asking, and Sam, host the Check the Mic podcast, joins us now. But Sam, look, like, never ask a musician about math. I can only count to 4. You're the math guy. Like, did we figure this out? What's happening here?
No, I'm a fake math guy. I joined PFF, Pro Football Focus, right at the start because I got lucky, not because I was, an analytical genius or anything. So I kind of learned all that stuff at the coalface. But there's actual, mathematicians and data scientists and stuff out there that understand all this data, and they've yet to get back to me on that question. I want to know what the chances are because there's division matchups all over the place. Seattle against Los Angeles. We're going to see that again. Even in the same conference, you've got Green Bay, Chicago. And the AFC is littered with these potential matchups as well. I would say two of the more likely championship matchups would be Buffalo and New England for a third time, and Seattle, Los Angeles for a third time.
Okay, so let's take that there. If we get Seattle Rams and Buffalo New England for a third time, who are you taking to be the winners of those matchups?
The Buffalo New England one, I think, would still very much be a coin flip. I think we saw that yesterday. Yes, Buffalo came back. They managed to get the win. They split the series now, but that was kind of an impressive performance from the Patriots as well in this weird season where their schedule is such a cakewalk. Basically, their two difficult games have been Buffalo, and they've now given a good account of themselves in both games, even if they ended up losing this one and letting a lead slip away. The Rams Seahawks, we're going to get to see that again. I think we need to, because the first game, the Rams look so impressive at the moment, but Seattle did slow them down better than anybody has, and they turned the ball over a bunch. Now, if they can avoid that the second time out, maybe they win that game. Maybe that's the way that they end up being the better team. On the other hand, the Rams have had Sam Darnold's number for the last several times they've played him, and maybe that's just something that they're able to bring to the table. So I want to see the second game between those two before I decide which way I would pick a third.
I still can't figure out that Bills-Patriots game. I can't decide if I loved or hated all of it from everybody. All right, something you do on your podcast is roadside assistance. You help struggling teams or players that could use some roadside help. So we're going to do that with instead of struggling teams, though, we're going to look at likely playoff-bound teams, so kind of fringe and playoff teams here. So we're going to take a look at some of these, get you some roadside assistance. Let's start with the Eagles for their roadside assistance. You can't say play my beloved Raiders every single week because obviously that's a cure. We'll give them some assistance.
Yeah, that's definitely the easiest fix for any offense is to go playing the Raiders. I think a big thing for the Eagles, they need to get more creative with that scheme. It's too reliant on star power, on just players going out there and out-athleting the guys that are trying to cover them or trying to defend them. And it doesn't have to be that way. A.J. Brown's a great wide receiver, but why not scheme him open as well as just throwing him ISO routes on the outside and letting him go and moss a cornerback deep down the field? Saquon Barkley's a talented running back. Why don't we try and get him the ball in space instead of just hoping he breaks something at the next level? There's not enough creativity within this offense. And I think defenses know that. They know what to defend. They know how to clamp down on it. And then the question just becomes whether the Eagles can execute. And I think we did see a little bit of that, against the Raiders, but there was some creativity in the red zone, and that hasn't always been there. So let's dial up the creativity.
It does feel like, I'm so sorry if it's the Raiders or the ultimate NFL antidote. You want to get back on the right track? Raiders.
She see my phone every
the
Sunday,
Texans?
Caroline. All I get are texts that say, I'm sorry. That's it. It just says, I'm sorry. That's it. Everybody knows. That's fine. Go ahead. It's fine.
I'm so sorry. I will add on top of that. What about the Texans? I mean, they've been on a roll. They've won 6 straight. Their defense looks like to be one of the best, if not the best units in the NFL. But how can the Texans go from where they are right now on a winning streak, looking dominant defensively, to fine-tuning themselves into a legitimate Super Bowl contender?
Yeah, I mean, their defense is so good that I think they're going to be in every single game. And then their question just becomes, can the offense put up enough points? Can they make enough plays to make it work and to be the difference between winning and losing? Their big Achilles heel is the offensive line. And, unfortunately, you're not going to solve that in terms of personnel coming in off the street or signings from somewhere to try and rescue it. You're going to have to try and protect that offensive line. And the ways of doing that are getting the ball out of CJ Stroud's hands quickly, running the ball if they can achieve that with the running backs they've got. It's not the ones we expected to be having success, but Woody Marks looks really good. They're uncovering some running backs lower down that depth chart. If they can do that, that takes some pressure off. And then again, what can you do schematically to try and free up some of these guys, to try and protect that offensive line, to maybe move the pocket a bit, get CJ Stroud rolling out, not sitting there in a static pocket and hoping these guys can hold up for 3 seconds. Just doing everything you can to protect a weak link on that offensive line.
All right, so let's stay in the same division. Take a look at the Jags. Trevor Lawrence had a bit of a heater, but honestly, who you play matters. They've played some junky teams in this process too. So what roadside assistance are you giving Jacksonville?
Yeah, I mean, they really don't need anything if this Trevor Lawrence thing is for real. And like you said, look, you've got to factor in the competition, and even then, you've got to look at sample size. And we're, I think, a way away yet from knowing if this Trevor Lawrence resurgence is the real deal. If he has turned the corner for the 15th time in his career, I think we'll get a better idea of that when they play Denver and go up against a much stiffer opponent when they face the Colts again. But for the moment, I think you just sit back and let it work. Right now, Trevor Lawrence is absolutely cooking. He looks the best he's looked in his NFL career. I think you could argue each of the last two performances he's had have been the best game of his career. And if that's real, if that's true, the Jags are immediately a contender without having to do anything. Their defense is already legit. The run game was already legit. The only thing that was lagging behind was Trevor Lawrence, and all of a sudden he's arrived to the party.
Duval.
Thank you.
Ugh. It's always so uncomfy. It makes my skin crawl. Let's switch over to the NFC side of things, because maybe the second best antidote in the NFL this season is taking on the Titans. Now, the San Francisco 49ers took care of business against a bad team. It got a little bit more interesting in the fourth quarter than it probably needed to be, but San Francisco still takes care of business against an inferior opponent. The easiest roadside assistance would be to say, okay, get Fred Warner healthy, get Nick Bosa healthy, but obviously that's not going to happen for this 49ers team. But how would you kind of tinker with this 49ers team to be a legitimate contender in the NFC?
You need to let Robert Saleh go into a lab for the next few weeks and just figure out every creative, like, witchcraft piece of smoke and mirrors he can come up with on the defensive side of the ball to break out in the playoffs, because that's going to be it. They just do not have the personnel on the defensive side of the ball to go up against, legitimately good offenses and slow them down. And it's going to have to be Saleh making magic happen schematically and with his defense. And I don't know if you can make that happen, just flip a switch once you hit the end of the season. But the rest of these games, they don't matter. They're basically making the playoffs. The question becomes, what can they do once they get there? So let Saleh go away into a bunker for the next few weeks and let him work on everything he can come up with, because he's going to have to get it done, not the players that they actually have out there on the field.
All right, so I'm going to let you pull up to two cars that are both on the side of the road at once, and one is the Bucks and one's the Panthers. They both inexcusable losses over the course of the week. But here's the thing: it's your roadside assistance. I'll let you just fix one. You pick which one you want to fix, and the other one we're going to eliminate from this conversation. So, how are you roadside assisting one of these teams to win the division?
I'm going to go with the Bucks because I don't understand the Panthers. I've given up trying to figure out nothing about them makes any sense this season. The Panthers, the Falcons, neither one of them makes any sense to me. So I'm done with them. I'm just working on Tampa Bay right now. And I think, look, you need to get Baker Mayfield as close to healthy as you can get him and getting the ball to those receivers. They're getting healthy. Mike Evans did return and looked really good. Jalen McMillan returned, and he looked pretty good as well. Emeka Egbuka has fallen off, the last couple of weeks. He had a drop recently. They've had some rough plays where they haven't been able to connect, but you're starting to put together this really impressive receiving core that is finally getting healthy at the crunch time. But Baker Mayfield is dealing with that shoulder injury. You need to try and get him as healthy as you can and just start taking some stuff off his plate. Don't worry about scrambling, Baker. Put the ball in the air. Give your receivers a chance to make plays, because those guys are capable of doing it, and it doesn't have to all be you anymore.
And I want to stick in the NFC here as well, because we saw JJ McCarthy get a win last night, and the JJ McCarthy experience has been up and down and hot and cold and on the field and off the field really for a majority of this entire season. What did you take away from that performance last night? Are we starting to see JJ McCarthy maybe figure some things out?
Yeah, I think the last couple of weeks they've been a lot like Michigan JJ McCarthy, which is, look, they haven't asked him to do too much. They've run the ball reasonably well. They haven't asked him to throw the ball, 45 times in a game. They're giving him a relatively low workload and just asking him to be efficient with the plays that they do dial up for him. And he's been better at that the last couple of weeks. It's shown them that at least that is still there. The thing that we liked at Michigan is still possible for him to do at the next level. And then I think we need to build on that. I think they've kind of given up trying to fix some fundamentals and his mechanics a little bit this season. And they said, look, let's park that. We'll come back to that in the offseason. Right now, just do what feels comfortable and get the ball where it needs to go. And I think the last couple of weeks you've seen him in a better place than he was earlier in the season when it was going really badly.
You guys can check out the Check the Mic podcast, of course, and then follow him on social media at Sam Monson NFL. Sam, appreciate your insights. I would ask you how to fix the Raiders, but we don't have that much time. So if you ever find a tow truck that can fix my team, I appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with us, brother.
Thanks, guys. Anytime.
Great
Awesome.
stuff.
Thank
Sam.
you.
A great follow, by the way, on social media. He will make you smarter just following him. All right, Monday night means Monday Night Football. We'll get you caught up on that game and what it means for the entire playoffs next. The Steelers have won 22 consecutive home games on Monday Night Football. Can they extend the streak this Monday when they take on the Dolphins? Two teams fighting for their playoff lives at this point. Caroline, interesting video made it out social media yesterday of the Dolphins arriving in Pittsburgh and immediately getting out on the field for practice over the course of evening, trying to make sure that they are conditioned for the cold that there will be. Obviously, we know Miami playing in cold weather is not an ideal situation. Pittsburgh favored in this game, but man, desperation does wild things. This game means everything for both of these teams.
I mean, both of these teams are desperate. I would say the team that maybe reeks of more desperation is probably the Steelers, understanding that they made all of those moves this past offseason, bringing in Aaron Rodgers this past offseason. All of that was to, at the very least, make the postseason. And I don't even think making the postseason is going to be good enough for Steelers fans. Steelers need to win a playoff game. That's why I think they made all of those acquisitions and transactions at the beginning of the season was to win a playoff game this year. So if they miss out on the postseason altogether, I mean, that is catastrophic in Pittsburgh. So the desperation level is higher because once the Dolphins sold at the trade deadline and fired their general manager, Chris Greer, I think they understood, okay, anything from here on out is just icing on the cake, is just a cherry on top. I don't think the Dolphins expect to make the postseason, but they've been winning enough that they've played themselves into this position. Overall, though, Fitz, and I love the story of the Dolphins, of where they started the season and what they've become. Credit to Mike McDaniel, credit to Tua, credit to this entire team for holding everything together. I just think it's going to be too cold for Tua and for this Dolphins team. Like, Tua doesn't play well in the cold. We've seen him play in the cold before, and it's going to be bitter cold in Pittsburgh. I've seen all of the snow and the low temperatures going on in the Northeast over the last couple of days. So ultimately, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to win this game, not because I think they're the better team, not because I even think that they're a good team, but because desperation and good coaching wins out, especially in the weather that they're going to have tonight.
But the wild thing about all of this, Caroline, is that if the Dolphins win, they'll go to 7-7. And if the Dolphins win and they go to 7-7, they'll literally be a game back of the Colts for the last playoff spot. The Dolphins started this season 2-7. We're talking about now why the Colts, who have tough games remaining, we talked about it earlier, the 49ers, the Jags, the Texans, right? Like the Colts have a gauntlet left in front of them, and it's not exactly smooth sailing for the Dolphins with their remaining schedule. But if they are able to win this game, then they take on the Bengals, who have not been particularly good even with Burrow back. They take on the Buccaneers, who've been wildly inconsistent. Then they finish at a New England team that may or may not be playing for anything at that point. We have no idea. So there is at least a path. I don't love Miami having to win at New England, but we talked earlier about the fact that there's a very real path that has the Colts losing all of their remaining games. So, like, we're suddenly in this, because of the free fall of the Colts, we're in this weird situation where the Dolphins and the Steelers both, even if the Dolphins win and the Steelers lose, they'll both still be in contention for a wild card spot. Like that's the Steelers will also be 7-7 with the very real shot. Like for everybody that's eliminated the Ravens or the Steelers, a month ago we were saying, well, you got to win the division. It's the only way you're getting in. That's actually a pretty real path for both the Steelers and the Ravens to make it into the playoffs because that last seed looks so shaky with the Colts in it. So I hear you. It's tough to win in that level of cold. I also don't love to in that level of cold. My hope, if you're a Dolphins fan, your hope is that Achane could go off. Like, as long as you're going to win this game based on your ability to run the football and based on your ability to not be scared of the Steelers' offense. And I think those are attainable things. But, man, it just feels like we have spent a long time not trusting the Steelers. If they win here, I think we might need to change some of the tone of the conversation we're having around Pittsburgh.
Why?
Not
the Dolphins aren't any sort of world-beating kind of team. Like, if the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Dolphins at home when it's freezing outside, I'm not going to say I was all of a sudden wrong about this Steelers team. I don't believe in this team. I think that Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career is too old and will be too banged up to carry a majority of the offensive load. Their defense is terrible. So even if they win tonight, I will chalk it up more to Tua can't play in the cold than I'll chalk it up to I'll give the Steelers credit.
By the way, correction. Josh, producer, got my ear. He's right. The Houston Texans are the 7th seed. The Colts are the 8th seed. So, no, the Texans at 9-5. 2 games. That makes it much more difficult. Josh is right. I am wrong. I think part of the conversation with the Steelers, though, is like, look, we expected this. I expected this massive fall off. I've been calling for the massive fall off for weeks, right? I keep saying, well, we all said the Ravens are going to go on a run. The Steelers are going to lose a bunch of games. Well, I know that the Steelers at this point aren't a world-beating team, but they did just beat the Ravens, right? So there is this spot where, look, they got the Ravens, then they get the Dolphins. They're going to be get right at some point. Then they got the Lions also left in front of them. So there's some difficult games. But for a team that we expected to be an abject disaster the back half of the season, I expected they were 7-6. If they win tonight, they're going to be 8-6. 8-6 with the game left against the Browns. That's going to take them to likely 9-6, right? Like, you just turn around and look at this. Like, it's not hard to get if the Steelers win tonight, it is not hard to get the Steelers to 9 or 10 wins.
You know the old adage in football, you are what your record says you are? I think sometimes that can be the truth. Like, I think the Lions sitting at 8-6, that feels right kind of for what we've seen so far from this team. If the scenario that you lay out there comes to fruition, where we see an actual world where the Steelers could go 10-7 or 11-6, that's not who they are. Like, their record does not tell the story of who this Steelers team is. You say, they haven't, completely crashed and burned. Well, I think it's because the rest of this division has crashed and burned. Because we kept waiting for the Ravens to get better and for the Ravens to break through. And yes, the Ravens have looked better. The Ravens did look better over the last couple of weeks, but that's still not to the level that I thought the Ravens were going to be at, the level that we know the Ravens are capable of being at. The Browns are terrible. The Bengals are terrible. Like, the Steelers are in this position, I believe, mostly because of all of the factors around them, not because of what they're doing. And look, prove me wrong, Steelers, but I think week over week over week, they've proven to us that even if they're winning football games, it's not because they are one of the better teams in the league. It's because they're beating up on bad teams. And they're in a division that has just crashed and burned.
That is very fair. Part of the reason I look at this and say, man, the Steelers are going to – you're right. I don't believe the Steelers are a great football team. I just thought that they were going to be a terrible football team in the back half of the season. Their season was going to fall apart. And instead, whether it's because everything around them just is also crummy or whether it's because they're not quite as crummy as I thought, I mean, if they win tonight, I believe they will beat the Browns, and they've already beaten the Ravens. That's going to get them to 3 more wins. That gets them to a 10-win season. A 10-win season just feels staggering for a team that we've sort of left for dead multiple times. There is some news that want to get everybody caught up. We got some breaking news that has come across the pipeline in the form of a firing. The Jets have fired defensive coordinator Steve Wilks. Obviously, only a few weeks left in this season. I think the stunning portion of this, the stunning stat, is that so far this season, the Jets have as many interceptions as a team as Caroline Fenton and I do. And that's just 0. The number is 0. The
Combined.
Jets have not gotten a single interception as a team this year. So Aaron Glenn makes a move with just a few weeks left in the season. I'm not sure it fixes anything, but Aaron Glenn is tinkering with his staff at the very least.
I mean, it's an easy move to make when you are fresh off of giving up 48 points to the Jacksonville Jags. And look, we were talking about Trevor Lawrence earlier. Is that a fugazi? Is that playing the Jets fugazi, or is that actually who Trevor Lawrence is? Whenever your defense and your team is being talked about in that way of you make opposing quarterbacks look really good and have career kind of days, well, it's easy to rationalize a move like that. And I think when you are 3-11, when the Jets are going to finish out this season, 3 or 4 win football team, they're going to be picking in the top 5 in the NFL draft. When you have a season like that, you have to have something to show for it. I think you have to make moves. It's a hard sell to ownership and to the fan base to just run everything back the exact same way you did whenever you won 3 or 4 games. Hate to see any coach get fired, but something had to give from this Jets coaching staff. And we knew it wasn't going to come in the form of firing Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, and also this is a statement to every single fan base that's out there screaming about tanking. NFL teams don't do it. I just want to remind you that if you're the Jets, who do still have a path that could lead them to the first pick in the draft, they need some help, but they have a path that could lead them to the first pick in the draft. If you think your defense is so terrible that you need to fire your defensive coordinator, this is where fans would say, well, just keep him. If he's so bad, keep him till the end of the season. We want to lose games. We want the first pick. If you're Aaron Glenn, you intend to be the Jets head coach for more than just this season. You need to continue to show and try and turn some things around inside that building to show what this team's about. It's just a reminder, Caroline, that fans want tanking, franchises do not.
And Aaron Glenn wants to win. We all look at the Jets. We're like, oh, the Jets. We just write off the New York Jets. Aaron Glenn is a Jet. Like, Aaron Glenn comes from this Jets tree. Aaron Glenn wants to win football games with the New York Jets. He wants to upgrade this coaching staff. So good on him for making a move. Again, it doesn't do anything for this season. It doesn't change the trajectory of this team drastically. But what Aaron Glenn is doing is saying, hey, look, I'm trying to do better. We are going to try to do better. Giving up 48 points isn't good enough.
Yeah, we'll see what it looks like when they take on the Saints this weekend. Can't wait. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. We will be back right here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for Yahoo Sports Daily. Come hang out with us. Thanks for watching.